In this vlog, I'll be reading my most highly anticipated new romance releases. They all came out in the same week and I had so much fun reading them back to back and filming my thoughts for you guys, so I hope you enjoy watching. I've started the first book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog, which is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the follow-up to Icebreaker, which I'm sure most of you watching have at least heard of or read before. It was super popular, super hyped up. I read it earlier this year and I loved Icebreaker, but I do think all the hype kind of made my expectations just so sky high that it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I do think it hindered my enjoyment just a little bit because the storyline and the characters and the relationship in Icebreaker just weren't how I thought it was going to be based on all the reviews I'd heard of it. So going into Wildfire, I have tried to stay away from people's reviews before reading it. All I know is the premise, which is that we're following another guy on the same hockey team named Russ, and he has a one-night stand with a girl named Aurora, and then they end up being camp counselors together at the same summer camp. I started it last night and I've only read a few chapters, but I don't really have any plans for today besides doing a few little household chores. So my main priority is going to be to knock out a good bit of this book and let you guys know how I'm liking it. I haven't read much more, but the found family in here is already so good. It's bringing back all the characters from Icebreaker, and I love all the guys on the hockey team. They all have their own very distinct personalities. I love them all. I literally need every guy to have his own book. And it might be too early to call this, but I love Russ. I think I love him even more than I loved Nate in Icebreaker. He's just so sweet, so polite, so quiet. He's very like, not insecure, but he kind of overthinks and questions like, should I say this? Should I do this? And I find it so charming and endearing. Also, he's very clean and neat and tidy. Like Aurora spilled her drink and he immediately got disinfected out and started wiping it up. And I was like, oh my God, it feels like Russ was written for me. I just love him already. Hi guys, I am flying through Wildfire. I'm almost to the 200 page mark and I really just felt like binging it. Nothing stood out to me one way or the other where I'm like, okay, I need to film an update and share my thoughts, but I'm getting really close to the end now, so I felt like I needed to tell you guys my general thoughts on the book before I finish it. So I am really liking it. I do wish there was more of a storyline, but I wasn't really expecting there to be too much of a plot in here just because that's how Icebreaker was, and I feel like that's where some of my disappointment came with Icebreaker. When people described the premise, it sounded like it was going to be such a fun plot, and then the premise of that book kind of wrapped up within a few chapters, and then it just became a character focused story. So I wasn't expecting this book to have too much of a storyline, and it doesn't, but I'm still liking it. I think in my first update I talked about how the found family was my favorite part, and we're only getting crumbs of the friend group, but it is still my favorite part of this book. I love the friend group and the found family in this so much, even more than I love the scenes of Aurora and Russ together and them as a couple. Not to say I dislike them at all, because there's nothing specifically that I don't like about them, but my thing is they had this one night stand and now they're camp counselors together, so they have to remain professional and they can't get together, they can't act coupley. So they've kind of developed this friendship, which is fine, but even when we're in their heads and like seeing their own point of views, I feel like there should be this mutual pining for one another and them thinking about the other person in a certain kind of way, and I feel like we're not really getting that. So it's just making me view the couple platonically instead of romantically. But that's really my only thing with this book. I'm still really liking it. Obviously, like I said, I'm binging it, flying through it. I'm probably going to binge it until the end, and then the next time I'll update you guys is with my final thoughts when I have finished the book. Finished Wildfire, and my feelings really haven't changed since my last update, and now I kind of feel the same about the couple, where it felt more platonic than romantic. There were some really cute moments between them at the end, but I don't know, I felt like for the situation that they were in, where they were working together and not supposed to get together, that should have accounted for more buildup and more tension. And when we were in the characters' heads, I felt like they weren't feeling like, oh, I want to be with this person. There just wasn't that mutual pining that I hoped for. But that being said, I still really did like it. I flew through this. I feel like Hannah Grace's writing has really improved, because something about this, I just couldn't put it down, and I binged it. I read it so fast, and it was not the longest book, not as long as Icebreaker, but it was still like 380 something pages, and I read it pretty fast. So did enjoy it. I'm probably gonna give this 4 stars. I think I liked it about the same as Icebreaker. It's definitely different. I feel like this book has its strengths and Icebreaker has its strengths, and there are things that I like better about Icebreaker and things I like better about this book, but they're definitely different. This is not like Icebreaker 2.0, which I think is a good thing for sure. I don't know if everyone's gonna like this as much as Icebreaker, but I do think if you enjoyed Icebreaker, you will like this one too. I liked it. It was fun, and I would recommend. Caught Up by Liz Tomford came out yesterday, and this is probably the book that I am the most excited to read out of all these books I have planned for this vlog. It is definitely my most highly anticipated read for the second half of the year. I have just loved this Windy City series so much. I love Liz Tomford's writing. I just really connect to it. I really connect to her characters, and I root for her couples so hard, and I've loved both books so far in this series, so I am just really excited for Caught Up, even though on paper it's not my favorite tropes typically, and it's a baseball romance, which I don't think I've ever read a baseball romance, and baseball is definitely the sport that I watch the least. I'm still so excited for it because of how much I love Liz Tomford's writing. So I did read a few chapters yesterday, and it really sets up the premise for the story. So basically we have Kai. He is an MLB player in Chicago, and when his son that he didn't even know he had turned 6 months old, his baby mama came and dropped him off on Kai's doorstep and was like, surprise, I was pregnant and here's your baby, and she wanted nothing to do with him. So now Kai is taking care of his son Max, and he is super overprotective of Max, I think kind of because he missed the first 6 months of his life and the way his mother just dropped him off on Kai's doorstep. So he really doesn't trust Max in anyone's care. He's fired like every single nanny that has even tried to work for him. The team has been really accommodating, letting Kai and his son travel together with the team, but Kai is considering retiring because he wants to give his son his full attention and the best possible care, but the head coach of the baseball team doesn't want that to happen because he thinks Kai is like too talented. His head coach Monty ends up recommending his daughter Miller, who becomes our female main character, as the nanny, and so it's also coach's daughter, which I didn't realize as well. But Miller is a pastry chef. She won this really prestigious cooking award, so now she kind of has imposter syndrome because she feels all this pressure on her to come up with these new recipes for this magazine spread that she has to do, and so she's taking the summer off to like work on that, and while she's doing that she's able to take care of Kai's son Max, and that is just the first few chapters, so that's the premise. But they've had their meet cute and I'm obsessed with it. Liz Tomford just knows how to write characters and dialogue and situations that feel so real and just come off the page and come to life, and I feel like I'm watching it in front of my eyes instead of reading it. This one's a long one. I'm planning to read a ton of it today and update you guys on my thoughts. Hi guys, I'm about 60% of the way through Caught Up, and I wanted to film an update because unfortunately I wish this was a happier update, but I just keep reading and reading and reading, thinking it's about to get better, thinking I'm gonna be obsessed with the couple, and I'm just not. I feel like I'm wanting to love it more than I actually am loving it, which is so sad to say, and I'm not disliking it, but I'm just not loving it the way I hoped I would. And the only thing I can put my finger on specifically that I'm not loving about it is the pacing of it, I feel like, is a bit off. Miller's character is very forward and very flirty, and so she's been really direct with telling Kai how she feels about him, which I don't have a problem with, but it has broken the tension really early, and now I feel like there's a physical connection but not an emotional connection, and now they're trying to like build this emotional connection. So it just feels like a very weird push and pull, and the pacing just feels off to me. Sadly, I'm not as obsessed with Kai and Miller as I have been with the other couples in this series, but to be fair, I was thinking about it because Liz Tomford announced the 4th book coming out, which is called Play Along, and I am hoping and praying that is Rio's book, because I've been waiting for Rio's book ever since Mile High. I love Rio. He's our comedic relief character, and I feel like his book is going to be so good. This book is also setting up a 5th book with Kai's younger brother Isaiah and a girl who works for the baseball team named Kennedy. And I don't know, I feel like we've been so well introduced to the characters that are getting future books, whereas with Kai, I remember when he was introduced in The Right Move, it felt so random, and I'm like, okay, he's obviously just thrown into this scene because he's getting a book. It didn't feel like, okay, here's this character that you're getting to know and he's gonna get a book, and I never really felt excited for Kai's book specifically. I was just really excited for another book in this series. So I think that could be some of it. Also, Miller is like a brand new character, so it took time to warm up to her as well, although I do really like her character. I don't know, I'm just trying to factor those things in, but I'm just not connecting with it the way I have the other books in the series. It's definitely not bad. Like, it's sitting at probably a 3.5 at the lowest right now to 4-star. I feel like the found family in this is making it a 4-star and not a 3.5, because if this was a standalone, it probably would be more like a 3.5, but because it's this world that I'm familiar with and love all these characters that we're seeing cameos of, it feels more like a 4-star. But that's just how I'm feeling right now. I wanted to update you guys and let you know my general thoughts on the book, and then I will probably read till the end and let you guys know my final thoughts. I have now finished Caught Up, and my feelings haven't really changed between my last update and now. I liked the book, but I just never really fell in love with it or connected to the characters. So I think I've decided on a 3.75 rating for this book. It's not quite at a 4-star for me. I just never really got that invested, and it's definitely my least favorite so far in the series. I did see on Kindle where it confirms that the next book is going to be Isaiah and Kennedy's book, which I kind of wish it wasn't going from one baseball romance to another baseball romance. And the ending of Caught Up definitely set up their book to be a certain trope, and it's one that I'm not the biggest fan of. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But I'm hoping, since I'm more warmed up to them as characters, that maybe I'll connect to them more and connect to their book more and enjoy it more than I enjoyed Caught Up. But sadly, this one was just a little bit of a disappointment. It wasn't bad, I liked it, but I just never really loved it. I have started the last book in the Chestnut Spring series, which is Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This book is kind of similar to Caught Up for me in that I was never excited for Beau's story specifically. I was just excited for another book in the Chestnut Spring series. Beau's character has always kind of been a recluse. He's been a little bit more in the background than the other characters. He was also in the military, and he definitely dealt with some traumatic things while he was there, and you see him home now and dealing with the aftermath of that. So I always knew his book was going to be more emotional and hard-hitting, so I wasn't like particularly excited for his book. And then Bailey, our female main character, is part of the Jansen family. They have a really bad reputation in Chestnut Springs, and unfortunately, even though she's so different from the rest of her family, her reputation still precedes her, and she finds it hard to just live her life in Chestnut Springs. Like, she can't even keep a job because people just tie her to her brothers and think that she's like them. And Beau has gotten to know Bailey, and he really sees her for how she is, and he sees that she's different to her family, and he's really wanting the town to see her the way that he sees her. Bailey also sees Beau for how he really is. Beau is sick of his family kind of walking on eggshells around him. He wants to be treated normally, and Bailey does that. And I really like that they see each other how they want to be seen. I'm liking their dynamic so far. Already, just a few chapters in, this book has kind of made me realize what was missing for me in Wildfire and Caught Up. When I'm reading from Beau and Bailey's perspectives, I really feel like I'm in their head, I'm in their shoes, I'm feeling everything that they're feeling, and I just already feel so connected to these characters. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping it just gets better and better from here, and I'll let you guys know how I'm liking it. can't remember if I mentioned this in my first update, but the tone of Hopeless feels very different to the rest of the books in the Chestnut Spring series, kind of in the same way that Powerless feels different. And I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, Jasper's a hockey player and he's not a cowboy, he's not a rancher like the rest of the Eaton brothers, so that's why his book feels different. And then Beau was talking about how he doesn't like working on the ranch anymore, and he is a military guy, so that also makes him a little bit different to the rest of his brothers. And then I completely forgot that Beau and Jasper are best friends, so it makes sense that I'm getting the same kind of different vibes from their books. And I'm loving this one the same way that I loved Powerless. It's giving me the same kind of feeling. I'm really enjoying it. I think it just keeps getting better and better. I'm still loving Hopeless. I think the only thing that I'm not loving is Bailey's character is supposed to be this like inexperienced, virginal character. So she'll ask Beau these really out of pocket, no filter questions about sex. And it's not giving 22-year-old woman who is inexperienced. It's giving 5th grader who overheard something at school and is coming home to ask her parents. So that's the only thing I'm not loving, but I'm loving everything else so much that I can kind of look past that. Hi guys, I wanted to close out this vlog with my final thoughts on Hopeless. I finished the book and I really liked it. Elsie Silver writes such a great romance. It was so well paced. I loved the story. I loved the couple. Their chemistry was so good. The spice was so good. I really connected to the characters. I think I would give this book 4 stars. I really liked it, but it's not my favorite. I think if I had to rank all the books in the series, my first favorite would be Heartless. Second favorite would be Powerless. And then third place is probably tied, Hopeless and Reckless. I liked them both about the same. And then my least favorite is Flawless. I think Elsie Silver's writing improved tremendously over the course of this series. And I'm so sad that it's over, but I enjoyed it so much. I would highly recommend it to everyone. It's been so much fun to read. It's one of my favorite series that I read this year. I'm sad to see it end, but I'm so excited for the new series that Elsie Silver announced coming out next year. It sounds like it kind of has similar vibes, so I can't wait for that. But that is going to do it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I had so much fun reading my most highly anticipated romances that came out all in the same week, which was such a treat. I would recommend all of these books. They were all great. Let me know if you've picked them up yet or if you plan to. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time in another video. Bye guys.